Hello, hi, it's Henry the Computer Guy, and welcome to our lesson number 33. And in today's lesson, we are actually going to be talking about what we call the computer output hardware. When someone talks of computer output hardware, what do they actually mean? These are specifically the devices that help us to get our information from the computer. So remember, we talked about the input earlier, and we said that they are used to enter data into the computer. Now, the output will help us to get our information out of the computer. And you can use any device, for example, you can use the monitor, you can use the projector, and others as we are going to be looking at them. So they're telling us that these are computer hardware components or devices that are used to display or convey the processed data. Told you earlier that you need to get something out of the computer, then you need to get what we call an output device or output computer hardware. But remember, the output can be in different categories. It can be audio, it can be text, it can be a video, and others as we are going to be looking at them. So let's look at the categories of output. Anything that is displayed by a computer or given out by a computer, it can be in different categories. And number one, we have the text. So this is specifically a combination of characters. It can be the letters, the numbers, the symbols, and these ones can even combine to form words, sentences, paragraphs, and so many others. And that is what we call the text. We also have number two as the graphics. And this is actually the non-text form. For example, the drawings, we can have the charts. Those are the ones we call the graphics. Then we can have what we call the audio, and this is in form of speech. It can be in form of music. It can be in form of sound, any form of sound. You can hear it, but you cannot touch it. That is what we call the audio. And lastly, we can have the video, which is in full motion images. So it can be even a combination of even the others that we have talked about, but in full motion. So let's refer to them and see how they look like. So this is what we have as the categories of output. For example, the first one we said we can have text. As you're seeing, we have our words here. They can form a sentence, they can form a word, they can form a paragraph, and so many others. And that is what we call text. Combination of characters. It can be a number, it can be a letter, it can be a symbol. Then we come to what we call the graphics. Any images that we have onto our computer, we refer to them as the graphics. We have the charts, we have the drawings there, images, we call them the graphics. Then we can have the audio, and that is actually in form of, let's say, music or speech. So we can hear it, but we cannot actually touch it. Then lastly, we have the video, which is in full motion. It can even combine even the graphics, the sound or the audio, but in full motion. Those are actually the categories of output we have. We continue. Then we look at some of the examples of output devices here. You can have a plotter, you can have a printer, and this is actually used to produce something on a paper. Let's say you have some information on a computer, but you need to get it in form of a hard copy on a paper, so you need to get a printer, where you can have either laser jet or inkjet or dot matrix and others. Then we can have a plotter, and a plotter is far better than a printer because it produces something on a larger surface and of a high quality. For example, you see all those billboards on the way where you always pass. These are the ones that are used to produce those graphics that you always see. Then we can have a projector, and actually we've used this one in class to project information for the students, for them to see it on a, let's say if it is a bigger audience and all of them need to access this information, we can connect our projector to the computer, then we display that information on the BB or blackboard. Then we can have the speakers. These ones produce sound and we hear it out of our computers. You have the headphones. For example, you have your smartphones, your media players. You want to hear something, so you can connect those headphones and listen to something out of that device that you have connected it to. So it can actually minimize the noise which would have actually heard by everyone. Then we can have the monitors. Now you're having your monitor, or you're having your, let's say, computer, but you need to see or see something out of your computer, so you'll need to get what we call a monitor. Then we can have what we call the light emitting diode displays, as we are going to see them in our diagrams below. Let's continue. So this is actually our project, and we say that we connect it to our computer to project items for the students or for a bigger audience. We have our monitors. You need to see something from your computer, you'll connect a monitor there. Then we need the speakers to get out sound from our computers. We need a printer to get something on a paper, for example, a print out on a paper. So it will be the printer to help us in that process. Then we have what we call the headgear. These are actually used in gaming, and it is actually an input-output because it has somewhere where you can view from, and that one that can actually where you can actually listen from, and it's used in computer games. Then we can have what we call the plotter. Remember, I told you that the plotter helps us to produce larger, let's say, graphics on a larger surface and of a higher quality. And I gave you an example of the billboards you already see on the way. They are printed using what we call a plotter. Then we can have what we call the earphones. These earphones help us to get sound out of a computer. Then we can have what we call the headphones. They can also help us to get sound out of a computer. So we also have what we call the light emitting diode displays. If you have ever gone to some places where they always sell these electronic devices, for example, flashy discs and what of the electronics, you always see those words moving around there. So those are the ones we call the light emitting diode displays. And at times, if you go to town, you'll find them being used for advertisement. Those are bigger what? Monitors. They are like monitors, but we call them the LED monitors or displays. They are used for advertisement. We continue. So let's give a difference between a hard copy and a soft copy. Remember, our computer gives out information using output devices, but that information can be given in two forms, either a soft copy or a hard copy. So a soft copy is that information we can actually see it on our monitor. We cannot actually touch it, but we can see it. For example, even the audio, even the videos, we can see them, but we cannot touch them. Whereas the hard copy is that information that is in a permanent form, printed either on a paper, and we can touch it and feel it. So let's look at the first one, which is the soft copy. This is information visually displayed in the form of audio and video. So it can either be displayed on the monitor or in the form of audio and video. So, or someone can even say that digital reproduction of a physical document. That means that the other information in a soft copy is the digital form of something that is going to be produced as a hard copy. So it is even intangible. So we can see it and hear it, but we cannot be able to touch it. Then we have a hard copy, which is actually the information in a permanent form suitable for direct use. That means that this information is going to be on a piece of material, either paper or any other type of material, and you can touch it and feel it. And in other words, this information or this type of information is always a tangible one. We continue. So let's look at the advantages of using a soft copy and hard copy. And we're going to begin with the advantage of using a soft copy. Remember, this information we are calling a soft copy is always on our computer. For example, you have your smartphone, you have your music there, you have your documents on your smartphone. That information is what we call a soft copy. And what are some of the advantages of having information in a soft copy or on your computer? So they are telling us that this information is easy for retrieval and access. Whenever I need to access this information, it is always easier for me to get that information. I can go to my computer if I know the name that that component or that information is having, I will just search for it, which is not the case, or which is more tedious to do when it is just in a hard copy. That means that you're going to be opening the files to look for that information. But in a soft copy, it is always easier to open and access. In just searching it, that information that you can actually get it. It is easier to edit. Whenever you need to make any modification in your work, it is just easier. You just open your computer, look for the document you want to, then you click where you want to, let's say, add in some information or remove some information, and the modification will be made there and then, which is not the case with a hard copy. It is portable. I can move with 1,000 copies of my document on a flash disk, which is not the case with a hard copy. It is easy to store and transfer to other computers. Let's say I need to make some copies, 10 copies on 10 different computers. I'll just use a flash disk. I transfer to another computer. Then I copy and paste. I copy and paste. So this information in a soft copy is easier to duplicate, in other words, and even to store. And they're telling us that the soft copy can also conserve office space. For example, in your office, you only need one computer to store thousands of documents, which is not the case with a hard copy, whereby you're going to need many of the shelves where you're going to be putting those hard copy files. So it is always conserving office space. So where you would have put, let's say, 10,000 hard copies, you can put there one computer and it will store all the information that you have. Let's come to what we call the hard copy. And they're telling us that hard copy, an advantage, it can be used even without power. But a soft copy cannot be used without power. That means that your computer has to be powered on for you to be able to access the soft copy. But for the hard copy, you can use it even if you don't have power. And it is not destroyed by viruses. It is just there, kept safe, and it is not going to be affected by the viruses which are affecting much the soft copies. And documents can easily be signed in case of a hard copy, which is always difficult for the soft copy. Someone cannot sign on a computer, but we can sign on a hard copy. We continue and talk about the disadvantages of the two. And let's begin with what we call the soft copy. What are some of the bad or the disadvantages of using a soft copy? It is easily destroyed by viruses or affected by viruses. Whenever your computer is affected by a virus, or the information might become corrupt, you might lose some of the information, and that is a bigger problem because it will lead to loss of our data. And it can accidentally be deleted. If a computer actually is being used by more than one person, someone can come and remove some of the information, assuming that, let's say, it is not needed, yet it was someone else's work. So information in a soft copy can accidentally be deleted and it gets lost. Another one, it can't be used without power. So we cannot use a soft copy when we don't have electricity. For example, if my battery for the computer or laptop is dead and no power, then means I will not be able to use a soft copy. And they're telling us that can easily be hacked. So someone can access this information or soft copy without your authorization. If, for example, you're over the internet, someone can use a network, then accesses through your information, then transfers the soft copies to their work. So it is always not securely kept because it can easily be hacked. Let's look at the disadvantages of using a hard copy. They're telling us that hard copies are bulky and not easy to move with. For example, you cannot move with 1,000 books in a bag or 10,000 books in a bag. Even if you're more powerful, it is actually difficult to move with a hard copy. They are telling us that you can't take all the copies with you. But for a soft copy, even if there are 10,000, you can just put them on a flash disk and move. Number 2 tells us that not easily shared. This information is not easily shared. For example, over the internet. Someone wants you to share that information. Of course, you have to transform it into a soft copy and share it to other people. Someone is in USA, needs a book. How are you going to share that? You have to turn that information back to a soft copy. Then you can be able to send it. So this information in a hard copy cannot easily be shared among people. And another one, they're telling us that it is not easy to edit this information because it is already a hard copy printed on a paper. That means that you're going to darken the paper or the work because you need to add something there, which is not the case with a soft copy. So information in a hard copy cannot be modified. Another one, obtaining a hard copy is expensive due to the need of ink, printers, and papers. So I need to get a hard copy. I'll need to get a computer. I'll need to get a printer. I'll need to get papers, hence making the whole process expensive. And they're telling us that affected by weather conditions. They are affected by weather conditions. For example, if it rains heavily and floods, let's say we get floods here, everything that is in a hard copy, when it is found down, it is going to be destroyed by that water. Then, lastly, they are telling us that paper wastage in case of any mistake. If you make a mistake, let's say if you're printing, you're going to be losing all the papers that you have been using. So it leads to wastage of papers if there is any mistake that has been done. So thank you for watching. It's been Henry the Computer Guy, and if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you know someone who actually needs this information, you can actually share the link to those people. So bye bye, I sign out.